Welcome back to Storage Day 2022. My name is Brian Terry, and I'm one of your hosts here, and I'm joined here with my fellow co-host and good friend.
Hey guys, Anthony Fiore, Storage Specialist Solutions Architect, and we're here today with a special guest to talk to us all about FSx for ONTAP.
Yeah.
So, Nick, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Well, hi guys, thanks for having me today. It's exciting to be here. My name's Nick Howell. I'm the Global Field CTO for our public cloud services at NetApp, and a lot of my time, especially over the last year, since it was launched last year, has been spent on FSx for ONTAP. So it's been a lot of fun. I'm here to celebrate kind of the 1-year anniversary of it. It's been a good time.
Yeah, I know it's been really popular with customers, and we've had a lot of conversations in the field about it. So hats off to you.
Thank you.
So, so do you have anything for us today? Like, do you want to kick off with anything?
I want to talk about what really comes into play with FSx for ONTAP, and it's about tapping into those enterprise workloads that are on-prem that haven't really figured out a way to get massive scale up to the cloud just yet. You guys have had Snowmobile and the Snow portfolio to help with some of that stuff, but really tapping into where enterprise customers, especially NetApp customers, how we can ease that transition to get up to the cloud. And we've heard about migration, we've heard about extending and all of that stuff from Ed and Andy in the last couple of sessions, but it's really about easing that transition, and we've been doing that for decades at NetApp. So having FSx and ONTAP, a managed instance of ONTAP in the cloud, really eases that migration path.
Yeah, all they have to really do is, they're using their existing tooling almost. And there's just less for them to manage. They can get right to it.
I always tell them to treat FSx, initially at least, as how you would treat a colo, a secondary colo facility. You would mirror stuff, or you would vault stuff to a secondary site with another storage array. Well, use FSx as that secondary storage array to get your data sets up there initially.
So if we took that a step further, like I know a lot of times we talk to customers about migrating computer workloads. We say lift and shift. You can think about lift and shift first, and then look at modernizing, right? Containerizing, serverless, and everything like that. So in your example about looking at something like FSx as just like a colo, where do you see customers going from there? Like what's their next step in that journey?
The fun part about this is we've learned all these lessons before, Anthony. We did this with virtualization as well, right? The first thing you do is you do a P2V, physical to virtual transition, and the very first thing you do the next day is start building the fresh VM with a clean OS and all that stuff, and then let the app owners start to transition or refactor into that, virtualize it. The same thing's going to happen here. We're seeing efforts around refactoring of workloads and applications to be either natively integrated with things that would be in AWS, for example, native services, where we see that kind of stuff. So that refactoring stuff is happening already. We see people using FSx as a target for backups and things like that. But I get excited when I see people really analyzing their entire workload stack and starting to maybe refactor a multi-tier app into containers and use those as persistent or stateful applications, right?
Yeah. It sounds pretty cool. Just to back up on what you said about containers, why would a customer do that? Like, why would they back up and go to container? What's the advantage of doing that and combining with your technology?
Agility and less overhead of, what's the word? Dependencies is the word I was looking for. So yes, the ability to have sort of ephemeral containers, but with stateful volumes, PVs attached to those, is definitely something we've been at the heart of for a long time. We've got our Trident connector, CSI connector for Kubernetes. So all of that is built in with ONTAP logic right out of the gate. And from what I understand, it's one of the largest storage orchestrators in the Kubernetes space right now. So it is open source, github.com/NetApp if you want to check it out. So if you're doing refactoring of applications, just know that there is an ONTAP CSI out there for Kubernetes-based workloads.
That's super interesting. I love it how you kind of can do this from containers, kind of helps with on-prem. I think you're kind of just meeting customers where they're at, whether they have advanced technologies like that or just trying to move to the cloud.
Absolutely. That's exactly what we want to do.
And I've even seen like cloud native customers adopt FSx for ONTAP as well, which is, they typically have just not been a NetApp shop. And they're like, hey, this really meets our needs, and we're going to go with it. And they've been very happy with the results. So it's really, like you said, it's really amazing to see all the different workloads that are the art of the possible with workloads. We started here, and we've kind of we've expanded that universe a lot.
Absolutely, and you just nailed one of my absolute favorite experiences to have. I was a NetApp customer and contractor for a decade, and before I ever joined the company 10 years ago. So I eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. The most exciting thing for me is seeing a customer's eyes light up the first time they get it when it comes to ONTAP, and how powerful it can be, especially cloud native customers or people that have been working in AWS, born in the cloud, kind of maybe they've got a hot app or something, and they're still struggling with that. They need that centralized unified storage control, right, or management plane. And they discover accidentally backwards stumble into FSX and find NetApp and ONTAP. And we've had customers that have discovered FSX and ONTAP that way in AWS that end up becoming on-prem storage customers.
Wow.
That's how powerful this is.
really hear that very often.
And it's one of the coolest experiences to go through or have the story get told to you. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So I understand that the service integrates into a lot of different AWS tools. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's fantastic. One of my personal favorites is CloudFormation. The ability to set up a deployment with everybody's favorite word, YAML, and create a manifest of sorts with YAML, and basically just be able to deploy that to any defined subnets, VPCs, and all of that stuff as in a standard deployment model. Man, that is with the work that we've been doing with containers and Terraform and Ansible and all of that stuff, there's no reason we couldn't also do this with a deployment of ONTAP, and we've done it. I've even got some that I still owe the community to put up in a GitHub repo somewhere. I've got some sample CloudFormation templates to spin up your own instance of ONTAP with a couple of button clicks, right, using CloudFormation.
Now, selfishly, I want to talk about this a little bit because, I work for the CloudFormation team. But
nice.
Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like with using CloudFormation? Are you talking about just deploying an infrastructure on AWS with CloudFormation in your service, or orchestrating your platform?
You know this better than anyone. The sky's the limit, right? It's to the extent of your YAML skills. It's to the extent of you really have to ask all the hard questions before you deploy it. It is a storage operating system. It's not an ephemeral workload. That you're going to have to maintain it, that deployment in a certain way. But if you have all of your networking defined, if you have your subnets and your VPCs and all of that stuff like predefined well, you have your IAM roles laid out very well, you're going to understand how to build that YAML structure and be able to define all of that stuff. And you can, with CloudFormation, you can maintain a deployment in East 1 and a different deployment in West 2 and create snap mirror relationships, all automated with a YAML file. And I said earlier, I'll jokingly say this again, I made my career on racking and stacking storage arrays, servers, all of that stuff that Ed was talking about a little bit ago, right? And that was my bread and butter. I am an infrastructure dinosaur. That kind of stuff is still necessary today, but it won't be in a short time in the future. So looking at things like Ansible, Terraform to automate that stuff along with CloudFormation is a really big deal for me.
Awesome.
Yeah, hopefully you're not just doing that for your FSX stack. You're doing it for a lot more.
Lots of other stuff, but we're at AWS Storage Day, so we're going to talk about storage.
So I've got a question for you. So for the customers out there who have just heard about this FSXN, and especially like the cloud native customers, right? Yeah. Like they have no experience with NetApp. They really like to kick the tires. Any resources you can recommend for them to really kind of, I'm going to use your term again, level up their skills, or just like what would you recommend for them to really just get into the weeds a bit and try out an FSXN solution?
Absolutely.
And see if it's worth it for them.
For FSXN, you can take that for a trial, and the beauty is it's a capacity-based pay-as-you-go model.
Yeah.
So if you only go out there and provision a small piece to demo around and you want to build a small little lab to try it out, it's not going to cost you a lot, right? It's not going to run away from you, so to speak. Just like AWS has introduced the badges, right? We were talking about the new file and core badges that were announced today. We also have some certification and learning programs for ONTAP. So if you're wanting to get into FSX ONTAP, we have some core ONTAP fundamentals trainings that we can offer as well. So, and we have certifications like NCDA and NCIE that our administrators have been taking for decades now. So. There are learning paths out there. My YouTube channel, I'm going on my own journey where I'm trying to show, I take a physical array, literally unbox it, put it into a rack, and I'm going to stand up all kinds of VMs and show the entire journey of how to move all of that up from a physical array up to getting it into FSX and
Wow.
trying to refactor those applications.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Nick, for being here. I mean, this was just super awesome. You know, we could speak with you, I think, for another hour or so, but
I wish we had more time.
I wish I had more time. But unfortunately, we got to move on. So
Yeah.
Thanks
thank
for
you
having
so
me,
much
guys. I
for joining
appreciate
us.
Thank you.
And stay tuned for the next section.